fiscal policy on its own cannot be effective. It can only be effective if it is supported by very positive expansionary monetary policy. The reason for that is as follows. Fiscal policy on its own requires the government to borrow money from the private sector or to tax the money. Okay? So that money is not new money. It is being taken from one group of people and spent on or given to another group. There's no net stimulus effect. The stimulus, and in fact, those measures, if you study the multipliers from those sort of measures, you typically get a 1 to 1.5 multiplier effect in the first couple of quarters. So $1 spent by the government might lead to $1.50 of spending in the first couple of quarters. But that is more than offset by negative multipliers, so 0.75 or less in the following quarters. So fiscal stimulus is not very effective on its own. Monetary stimulus is much more important and much more dominant. But the problem is that in the US, consumers, households, and financial institutions are over-indebted. They've borrowed too much. So they don't want to borrow anymore. So who's going to do the borrowing? Only the government. Okay? So it's very difficult to get the banks to expand their balance sheets and for monetary growth to accelerate. At the moment, what we're seeing is that the Fed's balance sheet, which has expanded from $900 billion to $2.2 trillion, the Fed's balance sheet has expanded hugely. But the balance sheets of the commercial banks are actually shrinking. They are deleveraging. The money supply held by the public at large is only growing quite slowly. And if you take total credit, that is actually shrinking. So the multiplier for monetary policy, that is it's the ratio of the money supply to the monetary base, that's the money created by the Fed, has actually fallen rather sharply recently in America. The figure has fallen from about 9 or 10 times to 6 times. So the multipliers in the US are actually shrinking, which is, so as I said, the multipliers are what are critical. And the decline in the multipliers means that the probability of these policies being effective in the short run is very small, minimal.